Mr. Speaker, my concluding remarks are, please, the government get serious, even though we are in a crisis, but get serious. Mr. Speaker, allow me this. There are areas in this country where people are dying of floods. Over 100 people have died. COVID has only killed 14. All the attention is on COVID. People of Budalangi are left on their own. People of Nyando are on their own. People of Karachuonyo are on their own. People of Kochia are on their own. People of Migori, Nyatike, Konyango, Luanda, they are on their own. No one thinks about them. Mr. Speaker, which is this country that we are living in? The government gets serious. If you have been sleeping, please wake up. And if you have been sleeping because of the handshake, Mr. Speaker, the handshake did not mean that now you do things the way you want. They must know that minorities still exist. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The issue of police. The government has not suspended the constitution. Neither has Parliament done, Mr. Speaker. I cannot overemphasize, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of police brutality, as has been said by the leaders here, Mr. Speaker. There is no country in the world, Mr. Speaker, that has reported cases of death through police brutality more than Kenya, Mr. Speaker, in the whole world. Because this pandemic was an equalizer. It was happening all over the world, all over the globe, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our police force cannot behave like goons in uniform, Mr. Speaker. These are people who have been trained properly to protect lives and property of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. That's why they are, Mr. Speaker. Unless they have instructions to do that, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this government has not done anything that is tangible other than announcing numbers, Mr. Speaker, every 3 o'clock of the day, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is one government that could not afford to give its citizens this thing, what is called, a mask, Mr. Speaker, which is worth 3 shillings, Mr. Speaker. Leave alone food. No, let's say 20 shillings. Members of Parliament are buying in their constituencies for people masks, Mr. Speaker. We were told that there will be free sanitizers, Mr. Speaker. Kenya Pipeline will produce alcohol-based sanitizer, Mr. Speaker. Corona is almost ending. I think they have washed it with their hands. Now they are washing it with their legs, Mr. Speaker. Because we have not seen any free sanitizer in our constituency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be business as usual and we keep quiet. We have the mandate constitutionally to represent the people. We have sovereign power, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that is unable to feed its people, that cannot give free masks to its people, that cannot give free sanitizer to its people. What else can they do? Mr. Speaker, we are not going to allow this government to contact trace people who have coronavirus in their homes, force them into quarantine, and expect them to pay for the upkeep, Mr. Speaker. The government must pay for the upkeep of people in quarantine that they have traced through their contact, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if somebody has broken the law, you can quarantine him. No, I have not finished. I know you're not happy with what I'm saying today. Mr. Speaker, if somebody has been traced with quarantine, Mr. Speaker, and is quarantined, the government must pay that bill, Mr. Speaker. They have the money. Mr. Speaker, this money that is for the war on coronavirus, Mr. Speaker, the government must account for it shilling by shilling, Mr. Speaker, penny by penny. This country is known for people who enrich themselves through miseries, disasters. They are known. They are in offices, Mr. Speaker. This coronavirus money, whether it is the COVID fund, whether it is government fund, we want them to account to this House, Mr. Speaker, coin by coin. Look, people are discussing shamelessly 3 or 4 million shillings and mandasi, Mr. Speaker, when our people are dying of corona. People are dying of shame, Mr. Speaker. Shame, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn that act with the strongest terms possible, Mr. Speaker. That people can sit in offices and use 4 million shillings to eat tea and mandasi when people are dying of hunger, people are dying for not having masks, people are dying for not having sanitizer, people are dying out of flood, Mr. Speaker. It's very shameful, Mr. Speaker. And you call yourself government. If it was in democracies that have matured, this government will have resigned. Mr. Speaker, we will have had a general election now, Mr. Speaker. Because If you cannot defend your people from floods, you cannot defend your people by buying the mask, Mr. Speaker, you don't worth even the name to be called government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want this House to rise up to the occasion and hold this government accountable for every action, omission, and commission that they do against the people of this country, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I really condemn what is happening in this country. And it's not a check, Mr. Speaker, to do whatever you want, as the leader said here.
Very well. If you look at the budget estimates that were tabled here last week, Mr. Speaker, the amount that is directly linked to COVID-19 is 2.6 billion in a budget of trillions. Mr. Speaker, something is happening in this country that needs to be addressed. And we are the people's representatives. We must address it. Mr. Speaker, the other bit is about social intervention. Mr. Speaker, the biggest problem that our people are facing is food. They are hungry. Forget about even COVID-19. In fact, our people tell you, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you go to your constituency. They will tell you how many people have died of COVID. And I'm not saying we should be relaxed. But they will tell you they are suffering and they are likely to die from hunger. If you look at our budget estimates, this is not a time to invest on capital expenditure, to build roads, to do what? We can live without roads as we eat. Right now, what Kenyans are concerned about is they want to eat. So, Mr. Speaker, we must provide funds for our people to eat. Every constituency, the poor people, those who are living below poverty line, must get government funding to be able to eat. And by the way, these figures are there. Mr. Speaker, like if you come to my constituency, they are numbering about 6,000 households. I'm sure if you extrapolate that to the whole country, it comes to about 1.8 million to 2 million households. Household is averaging 5 to 6 people. If you have to feed these individuals, Mr. Speaker, for like 4 months, 5 months, you need not more than 20 billion. This is something this country can afford. So, Mr. Speaker, as a House, this is the time for us to rise to the occasion, look at the budgets that have been tabled here, and deal with it radically to make sure that food is provided to our people. Mr. Speaker, the leader of majority has talked about police brutality. Other members have talked about police brutality. I want to repeat it, that whereas we support the enforcement of various regulations and rules so that our people don't get infected, it is not a license to anybody in this country to reintroduce police torture, to reintroduce cases of mishandling Kenyans. Our constitution is robust about human rights. Human rights must be respected. Where they violate those rights, there is the due process of the law. Take due process of the law, but don't kill our people. They don't deserve to die. The constitution is clear. No one is allowed to take out the life of any individual. Please, whoever is taking advantage of this crisis to bring dictatorship to the country, stop it. Even the cases we are seeing of eviction in some areas, I'm not talking about those people who have been stealing land, like in Ruai. Those ones you can deal with, because you don't even see them there. But Mr. Speaker,
I'm sure you're almost concluding.
No, I have 10 minutes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you don't have 10 minutes. You actually don't have 10 minutes, if you remember. If you remember the resolutions of the House that we did on some times back, the debate between April 22nd and April 29th, May 6th, you have 5 minutes. But anyway, you have a minute to conclude, minority.
Mr. Speaker, that is something we discussed. I think it was a mistake. And the clerk there on the table knows that the leader, we agreed that I have 10 minutes. And please don't take away my 10 minutes. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking as the leader of minority.
Yes, that is where you...
And that voice must be heard.
Minority leader.
And the chairman of one of the most serious party in the country. Mr. Speaker, let me just touch on the three last issues. On economic issues, the livelihood of our people I've talked about. I am talking about businesses. Mr. Speaker, we must create economic stimulus to help the small and medium enterprises. Mr. Speaker, I have talked about food, but let me put it this way. Kenya is a net importer of food, and every country is struggling to survive. What strategy does this government have in the event that the countries which give us food decide now to use their foods locally? This is the time to respond. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because I don't want to disagree with you much, you are my friend.
No,
I want to talk about...
Minority Leader, you actually have 10 minutes.
Yes, I have 10 minutes.
I have confirmed that from the motion.
Thank you. But let me conclude, because now I think I've said the bit that I wanted to say. I want to just touch on the two last issues. One is the financial sector, which is likely to face distress. The government must come up with a strategy of ensuring that this country does not have the financial sector come down in terms of financial distress. And the government financial distress, Mr. Speaker, interestingly, even after talking about what I said about the estimates, even though the government is not providing funds to respond to COVID-19, but you still find our public debt going up. The most unfortunate is that the government is even proposing to increase domestic borrowing from slightly over 200 billion to over 400 billion. And yet they are claiming to be reducing the CBR rate downwards. How on earth would you think of increasing domestic borrowing at this time? Mr.